We have more now on a series of new gun regulations offered by President Obama. In this morning's New York Times, former Australian Prime Minister John Howard says he went after gun violence in his country and succeeded. He says the president can do it too.
New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg has made gun control one of his missions. He is co-chairman of the group Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Mayor Bloomberg is here in Studio 57 with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You believe the country wants change?
Yes, the country. I think it took a tragedy of 26 people, 20 children, one time, in a nice community in the suburbs. All the video was beautiful, and people looked at that and they said, "We can't do this anymore. We got to stop it." Keep in mind, there are 33 people killed with handguns every day, and more people die from suicide with handguns than even get killed.
We had the president of the NRA on earlier this morning. How are you going to overcome the opposition that has derailed all gun control legislation in the past?
Well, what you have to do is you have to convince the Congress that this is the right thing to do. You can't force them to do it. You shouldn't force them to do it. It's democracy, and you can make good arguments. And I think you can show that you can have your Second Amendment rights to bear arms, for sport, for target practice, for hunting, for defense.
But people are
also
buying guns because they fear that you want to come and take their guns out of their home.
It is true, and it's a great visual, Charlie, for your show to show people lined up at one store. Keep in mind, there's 330 million people in America, and most aren't at gun stores. So there's always going to be, and somebody said, oh, well, nobody's going to enforce the law, or there'll be an occasional gun dealer that will go around the law. That's true. But, you know, we have speed limits. They save lives. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't speed occasionally. The bottom line is there's too many guns, and the guns are getting in the hands of our youngsters, in the hands of criminals, in the hands of people with substance abuse, and the people with psychiatric problems. There are federal laws against it, but the laws aren't broad enough. When the laws were written, everybody bought their guns at gun stores. Today, 40% of them come from the internet or come from gun shows. In the olden days, people bought pistols and rifles with a bolt, a single action. Today, you can buy something where if you keep pulling the trigger, it keeps firing, and it fires bullets, in some cases, armor-piercing bullets, which are only designed to kill cops. We just don't need assault weapons out there. There's nothing sporting about it. If you can't shoot the deer with 2 shots, you shouldn't be out there shooting.
I know you say that you feel like this has been a time for change, but it is true that Congress will probably not pass much of what the president proposed yesterday.
I think that's right this time. But that doesn't mean you're not going to come back again. Keep in mind, we're likely to have more tragedies like you saw in Connecticut. Each one of these builds on things. And also, the public has a chance every 2 years to express themselves in congressional elections. I supported 5 candidates that the NRA went against this time. 4 of them won. And I think through our Mayor's Coalition Against Illegal Guns, what we can do is we can go to the Congress people and to the senators in every state and say, look, in our cities and in our suburbs and in rural areas, this is what's happening, and let me explain to you why. And you can convince them. They're interested in doing a good job for America. If they hear from their constituents that that's what their constituents want, I think they'll change.
The NRA put out this ad, this controversial ad, in which the president's kids and other people's kids were mentioned at least 3 times. The NRA president, you just heard him say, no, this is not about them. This is about everybody else's kids who don't have the same elitist protections.
It's hard to understand the management of the NRA, what they're thinking. Number one, their members, every poll shows, are in favor of reasonable controls.
Including
Number 2,
our CBS poll today.
Fine. To do an ad to bring the president's kids in is just dumb PR. I mean, you really have to be stupid to do that.
He says you're an elitist hypocrite in that ad.
I know, sure. And the last thing, a month ago, 2 days and a month ago, they said, the NRA said the worst thing here is these violent children's games. And then 2 days ago, they come out with their own violent children's game. Come on.
But do I hear you saying to Norah that you agree that it will not likely be passed by this Congress at this time?
I am hopeful that it will be, but I'm telling you, if it isn't, the issue isn't going away.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question? And this is you, because you've done so much study on this. The NRA has millions of members. You're taking them on for the first time. Does the NRA represent gun owners or gun manufacturers?
Well, the NRA is getting its funding from gun manufacturers. And a lot of congressional people got monies from gun manufacturers. In fact, gun manufacturers are the only manufacturers in the country that I know of that have been granted immunity from misuse of their products or them producing products that they know will hurt people. The automobile companies don't have that kind of restrictions. CBS doesn't have that kind of restriction, that kind of protection.
Beyond guns, what about violence that is portrayed in A, movies, or B, video games?
Charlie, there are lots of problems in the world. I can just tell you this. In New York State, which has tough gun laws, and our governor and legislature just passed, a Republican Senate and a Democratic Assembly just passed more stringent gun laws. Our murder rate is so low compared to other places, it's hard to measure it. Our suicide rate is less than half of the national average. Our suicide rate with guns is like 20% of the national average. If you don't have guns in the hands of the wrong people, then you don't have this carnage. And that doesn't take away the ability for the average person who wants to have a gun
but
to
when you
get
bring
one.
up handgun violence like that, that is exactly why gun owners in America think that people that support gun control like you are going to take away people's handguns. Are you
Okay.
proposing that?
No, but are you saying to me we can't have a speed limit because people think you're never going to be able to drive again? I mean, yes, there's always somebody that's going to say that, and the press will glom onto that because they have to have two sides of a story, and it's great this guy's saying, oh, I'm going to go out there and kill everybody. Most people are much more rational. The American public has carried us through 235 years of democracy in spite of what they do in Washington, and I'm optimistic about this country going forward.
Thank you so much. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having us.